a smaller 14-inch bandsaw, and this is a test question, is how are your bandsaws categorized? Okay, it's not how big and tall they are, it's actually the diameter of the wheel. Okay, so the diameter of the wheel up here and the wheel underneath this cover tell you how big a bandsaw is. So if I had a 24-inch or a 26-inch, it's going to be much larger, it's going to be powerful. I think that's what my brother has at his house. Okay, so that's what it looks like opened up, and the motion of the bandsaw is just like this. Okay, it just continuously goes in that rotation in a downward motion. The reason bandsaws are a little bit more dangerous than scroll saws are because it does have that downward rotation, so it's easier for the blade to cut through your finger. Okay? This machine over here is the scroll saw, and this guy just moves up and down. So this guy just moves up and down really fast. I'll plug it in and show you. And it would actually move your finger back and forth. Like that. So it would actually grab your finger and go like brushing your teeth. Okay, so that's why middle schoolers use that one mainly, because it's a little bit safer. Okay, so that's how you categorize the size of this thing. Basically, it has a table for you to rest your stock on right here. In the fancier ones, they have fences and miter slides or miter gauges that you can use for attachments. That just helps you keep your stock straight. All right, and I'll show you an example of using those here in just a minute. All right, when we talk about this, the reason we use bandsaws are for curves and straight lines. However, the wider the blade is, the straighter the cut is going to be. Alright, so the wider the blade, the straighter the cut. So if I want to make something really straight, am I going to use this table saw here or this bandsaw here? This table saw. Okay, because it's got a wider blade, so it's going to give me a longer cut, longer kerf, and it's going to keep it straighter. So just want to point that out. But since we have about, I think it's a 1/2 inch blade here, we're also able to do curves. So it's a very versatile machine as well, and I'll show you curves here as well. And then, so it's basically made for curve cutting and resawing. Resawing is something that comes from the mill. The term comes from the mill, and basically you have a thickness of a board and you need to take it down even more. So resawing is taking the thickness down. So resawing is not that common in the classroom, but this is a bandsaw that you would see out in industry, or basically a mill is set up just like this, and cutting down the wood, the thickness of it like this is common practice. You get a little bit of flex and bend in it and stuff, so you don't get the flattest cut, but resawing is definitely something that people do a lot. Okay, so the basics for this, I'll show you and then I'll look at some of my test questions, is when we set up our stock, the first thing we do is we just set our stock flat on the table to make sure everything's out of the way, and we then adjust this guide. So this one on here is red, this one over here is just silver. On the right back side of it, there's a knob to loosen it, and you can raise and lower this little guide post to expose more of the blade. Now we only want to expose 1/8 of an inch more than our stock. So we just want to keep things safe. We just want our wood to fit right underneath these little guide wheels, and then I'll tighten that out. Then there's as little possibility of my fingers hitting the front of the blade here, because everything's covered. So this guard is the main adjustment that you make every time, and then when you're done, put it in the down position. Alright, so set the height. I'm actually going to demo on this one, so I'm going to set the height here. So I'll bring it down even more. I'll be like so. Okay, questions on that guard? All right. Talk about how they're classified. Make sure you don't remove any guards. That's going to be a test question on this one. We talked about cutting curves and resign. And we'll talk about backing out of a cut. All right, so on your guys' design, what you have here is this curve right here and right here that you're going to cut out. And then I'm going to also show you just a demo of kind of a squiggle and how you can get stuck and then how you can get out of those as well. Okay. Now, I'm going to stand right back here just for demo's sake. But what you need to do is you're going to be standing in front like where Davion is, and that's where you would be the user of the bandsaw. Okay? And I'll have you scoot back for just a second. Alright, so on off is right here. Might help if I plug it in.
Gosh darn it.
Gosh dang it.
I had a notification and it stopped my video.
Oh. Okay. Now, I never want to keep my fingers in line with the blade, so when I push, I don't want to have to push it in like that. Because then if it gives way or something, then boom, there goes my hand into the blade. So here, I'm going to keep my hands off to the side at least 2 inches away, definitely outside this little throat plate. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get it started. And I need to keep constant pressure into the teeth. Okay? Like that. It's kind of tricky when getting your curve started because you have to come in more perpendicular to the face to get the teeth to bite, and then you can kind of flatten it out to be more tangent.
Do you want other people to see it?
Okay? So, if you have a little piece right there on top that you guys can see in mine, that's okay. You would take care of that on this sander right here later on this week.
Okay.
Okay, so we're trying to get rid of most of the material on this. All right. Some things to keep in mind. When you're doing curves, you want to listen to the machine. And if you hear it really screeching, like that, I'm putting a lot of pressure on that blade. Okay? But you can get away with softer curves. Okay? One thing to help us take pressure off of it is what we call
A line.
relief cuts. And what relief cuts are just little points on your waste material that you would cut away. So that way when your blade gets to that spot, then those pieces fall off. So I'll show you an example of relief cuts. Those are my relief cuts. Those are in my waste material that go to my cut line. And now when I do this curve cut line, this piece should fall off, this piece should fall off, this piece should fall off, and that'll take the pressure off my blade. There goes my first piece. There goes my second piece. There goes my third piece. Okay? When you have scraps laying next to the blade, make sure you turn the blade off before you clear the scraps. And the best practice is to just use your wood to get it out furthest away and then grab them and then throw them away. It's hilarious watching middle schoolers do relief cuts because they do way too many of them and then they're just sitting there picking up their scraps the whole time. But they love it. I don't know why. Okay? Buckets. So that's relief cuts on that. So test question like I just mentioned, turn the power off and let the saw come to a complete stop before you back out of a cut or clear your scraps. Here's what backing out of a cut looks like. So I'm doing a curve and I get stuck. So hear this. I'm stuck, I can't back it out. So I wanted to stop there for some reason in the design of my cut, but now I want to make sure that I can pull the blade out without harming anything. So the biggest thing is, if I keep pulling this blade, I run the risk of pulling it off this wheel, and then it just takes 5-10 minutes for me to put it back on. So to avoid that, what you can do is use a push stick, and maybe I'll just raise this up a little bit, but I'm just gonna give it pressure against the blade, so that way I can pull it out and pull it off that way. Okay, so my blade's still good. Then I can resume my cut with the proper guard height. But if you ever have to pull your wood off of the blade, please use a push stick to keep the blade from falling off completely.
Can you demonstrate that for us one more time?
Demonstrate the push or the
push stick, yeah.
Oh, I say I needed to stop there and I'm stuck. Just grab a scrap piece of wood and get the blade exposed. So you could even use these little handy guys, and you could press against the blade and then wiggle off your board like so.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You should stand and face the cutting edge of the blade. Feed the stock away from you.
I already did the band
Which question is that?